What is up, Bat Family? Welcome to the second episode of the year for that of the Batman discussion series. So today, if you're brand new here, by the way, what we do is we discuss, theorize, speculate, talk about the latest and the greatest with the Batman from the Batman Part 1 all the way into the Batman Part 2. We dive into shows and spin-offs like the Penguin series, also the Arkham series, just a whole bunch of things. You guys made the last video, the first episode of 2023, explode. Honestly, I haven't seen numbers like that on a Batman discussion series video in quite a while, so it's absolutely crazy how well this series is going, and I put that all down to the amazing Bat Family, Batverse community behind all of this. So honestly, can't wait to get into today's questions, but I want to start off today's video with something that we can incorporate into future questions. So make sure you leave any questions down in the comments below for future episodes of the Batman discussion series. And what is this news? And it is some very exciting stuff, albeit it is not 100% confirmed, but a reporter known as Jeff Snyder, he runs a podcast known as The Hot Mic, and he said that word on the street is that Robert Pattinson will appear in the Penguin series. He doesn't know if it says Batman, he doesn't know if it says Bruce Wayne, or how much he could appear in the series. Take it with a grain of salt, of course, but Jeff Snyder, as far as I'm aware, isn't kind of like a nobody little scoop or anything like that. He's a legitimate reporter. So, and again, this isn't like mega surprising stuff. As we've spoken about it a lot on the series before, I've always dabbled along the line of they could include Robert Pattinson, but I've always gone down the safe approach of, well, yeah, I'm sure we could see him on like a news report, or they say the Wayne Foundation has helped rebuild Gotham after the flooding, but we could get that extra level of not only seeing maybe Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne, but maybe more likely Batman, because as a lot of people are pointing out, when you have a gang war in Gotham between the Penguin and Carmine Falcone's children, Sophia and Alberto Falcone, and we're hearing that Maroni could be involved in the series. How does Batman not get involved in that? I mean, he says, I can't be everywhere, but you would expect him to appear at some point in this series in some way. And we're going to dive into this a little bit more later, but I did want to start this video right off the bat with that, also to allow you guys to maybe ask some questions for the next episode at some point in the future. But anyway, guys, go ahead and like this video if you do enjoy this series. It lets me know, and I would just really appreciate that. It helps spring this out there a little bit more into the algorithm. And if you're brand new here, or if you've been coming back to these videos through your recommended and you're not yet subscribed, do consider subscribing, because we're very up to date on the Batverse. So first up is First Last saying, I think if they did Hugo Strange, it would have to be like Shutter Island meets The Raid. The image of Batman navigating the catacombs of the asylum with just a match to light the way would be enough to sell me. Now, if you didn't watch the last episode, we were talking about Hugo Strange a little bit, and he's quite a relevant point of conversation, because obviously when we talk about the Arkham spin-off, we don't really know anything about it. I mean, the Penguin series, we've got all this information. Granted, we don't know the plot, but considering there's a power vacuum left behind from Carmine, Sophia's coming in, Alberto, Maroni's in the mix, it is kind of obvious where things might go in an overview way of looking at things. But the Arkham series, sure, you could say it's about Arkham. Could Barry Keoghan's Joker be in there? Could you even have the Riddler? Or maybe they're not actually in it as much, and it could be like this really haunted tale, as I've imagined it before, this kind of anthology-esque episode to episode. When I say anthology, it's not like completely different periods of time, but maybe seeing the Arkham Asylum through the perspective of just a janitor, and then a therapist, and then a random inmate, and then maybe all the storylines converge. Again, we don't have any idea, but we have some ideas and theories behind certain characters, like how cool would it be given that all of Batman's villains in Matt Reeves' Batverse are in their infancy. A prime example being Riddler. Paul Dano's Riddler, right in the infancy, made his first appearance in the Batman Part 1. Barry Keoghan's Joker. Batman went to visit him in the deleted scene, and it was almost their first anniversary, so maybe he put him away in Arkham 10 months before that, but he had never been put away before. So, with that being said, you could have other villains be cued into these series like Jonathan Crane and Hugo Strange. So I love what First Last said here. It's not so much a question. Sometimes I do feature little visions like this in this discussion series. So I love the idea of Robert Pattinson's Batman navigating Arkham Asylum, all Shutter Island mode. That is just a vision right there. Now, to be honest, with that being said, the Arkham series, I think, will have a similar, if this rumor is true, of course, with the Penguin series. And I'm leaning on the side that they will involve Robert Pattinson. I don't think the Arkham series is going to be another point of view driven Batman story, but that's not saying that he won't be involved in it. So I wouldn't expect Batman to literally navigate around with a match or a torch, just kind of going around all the creepy corners. I do think the tale is going to be around something else. It could even maybe segue to the comment that Barry Keoghan's Joker made to the Riddler and how Gotham loves a comeback story. Maybe it could end with them breaking out. Who knows? Like, that's a whole other bag of discussion and speculation. But Batman could be in there. Maybe he turns up at the main point when the Arkham alarms are going, when maybe a villain or two has escaped. But as for him actually navigating throughout the asylum with a match to Just Light the Way, I doubt it, but I do absolutely love that idea. But that's not to say that the series can't still be like this. We could still even put aside my anthology-esque idea, even though with that idea I've done a whole video about it quite a while ago now. Do check it out. I'll probably leave it in the cards above. But this will still have a plot to it. So you could still have something really freaky happen in Arkham Asylum, and maybe a worker there is just experiencing it. And you could still have that worker more or less navigating around, let's just say the power's being cut in Arkham, which is a terrifying thing to imagine. Maybe that unlocks the cell doors, who knows, with just nothing but a match to light his or her way. That would be very, very freaky. Maybe that's the very thing that could summon Batman to go there, because you have the staff at Arkham in very much a lot of danger because the inmates are loose potentially, and Batman has to go there because there's this plan that's been devised, maybe by the Joker, maybe by the Riddler, who knows, that's allowed it to be in this Shutter Island-esque situation in the first place. But before I get too far ahead of myself, considering this isn't even a question, I'm going to leave it there. Love this idea from first last. Let me know your ideas about the Arkham series. I really, really can't wait to get more into that in the future. As far as we know right now, the Arkham series has got a showrunner. The same guy is also writing it as well, but we don't nearly know anything about it compared to like what we know with the Penguin series. But man, I am so hyped to learn a little bit more, because Arkham being a show, a potential limited series run of 8 episodes like the Penguin, so 6 to 7 hours if you want to take into account maybe 49 to 55-minute episodes. And speaking of Hugo Strange, skydiving into fiction, I probably should have mentioned this right away, because I've got a couple of comments that I've paired together here. I would love to see Dr. Hugo Strange. He could be the next big bad, in that he makes Batman go against other villains so Hugo can study him. I want a type of Hugo Strange that is fascinated with Batman, like Riddler, but instead of showing the corruption of Gotham, he is analyzing Batman as he would the prisoners of Arkham. On the bottom line, 200% here, Hugo Strange would be more fascinated about analyzing the Batman, as skydiving into fiction here says, as Hugo would analyze one of his own inmates of Arkham. And to be honest, even though I don't necessarily think Hugo will be one of the main villains of the second or third movie, I mean, it's totally possible, it can be an organic one. As Batman, considering in part 1, of course, there's been newspapers, plenty of them. We saw a few of them in, of course, the Riddler's apartment. As the movie picked up with the mayor watching the news, we had Bella Real saying we have a vigilante going around the streets. You know, is that really what we want in this city? Why do we need that? So he is out there, but after the first movie, he's got even more of a profile in Gotham. People know a lot more about the Batman, and actually maybe even see him as a symbol of hope. Obviously, that's what the end of the movie was getting at. Of course, the criminals see him as a symbol of fear still, so fear is still very much a tool for the criminal element. However, what I'm trying to get at is the popularity of the Batman, as per traditionalist canon, usually, and unfortunately, brings out the crazies more and more and more. Of course, we kind of had the crazies out there a little bit, but ultimately, Batman's presence, a costume vigilante being out there, just excites these crazies even more. So what I'm trying to say is Hugo Strange, the more popular Batman gets in this trilogy, could be more compelled and more excited and just more fascinated to analyze the Batman because of the more attention he's got. Hugo loves analyzing some of the inmates anyway, some of the villains, some of the absolute diabolical experiments that he's done is just insane. There's even been great stories told in recent times. Some of you may have listened to Batman Unburied, the podcast on Spotify, that episodic Batman tale. I don't want to give away too much there, but it is super, super interesting with what goes on there, and something like that would be crazy. I don't think it would go that direction for those of you who have listen to it. But man, wow, that is something else. So yeah, what I'm trying to say ultimately is the more popular Batman gets, it makes you think, with these characters out there, like, even though it hasn't been confirmed that Hugo Strange is popping in here and there, you could still arguably headcanon think he's out there somewhere. You have to think, what is that character thinking about this Batman out there after 2 years, and now who's got even more attention after saving hundreds in the flood of Gotham? And then you combine the fact that now we're getting an Arkham series. Could he possibly be working in there in some kind of head position of something? Maybe, and that would be something else, and I would love your ideas for a really realistic way. Let me know your thoughts on a really realistic way, not too far-fetched, as to how Hugo Strange could be involved in Matt Reeves' universe, because Hugo is such a grounded villain in terms of, you know, actually implementing him, that he could easily be put in there, especially if it's kind of through a back door of that of an HBO spin-off from the Batman Arkham Asylum. So up next from SAN, he says, fantastic video as always, bro. Thank you, man. What are your thoughts on the potential fallout? And this is something I haven't actually properly thought about before, and this is why I love doing this discussion series, because just like we can always still talk about stuff like this. So what are my potential thoughts on the fallout from Riddler videos in the first film, when he's calling out Bruce Wayne publicly about his parents? And how will that affect the perception of the Wayne legacy in Gotham, and how might that affect the emergence of Bruce Wayne into the public sphere? Maybe that could be the motivation for Bruce to want to team up with the newly appointed DA, Harvey Dent, and go after the crime in the city in an attempt to soften the image of his parents, change the narrative surrounding their murders, and also helping his efforts as Batman, which could potentially serve as motivation for Thomas Elliot to hold a grudge with Bruce, seeing as he most likely believes the version of events that the Riddler told. It will be interesting to see how Bruce handles the backlash / suspicion about his family from the public while trying to make positive changes in the beginning. I genuinely cannot wait to start hearing plot points and casting announcements, or really anything. Looking forward to the next video, bro. So this is super interesting to me, and again, I can't believe I've never thought of this. What we have to remember is the Riddler put that video out to Gotham, and sure, like, there's a lot of people who agreed with the Riddler's message. You know, there's a lot of protesters, or like people showing signs of what the Riddler was saying at the funeral for the mayor, for example, and Bruce was looking out the car like, what's going on here? I can't believe Gotham citizens are kind of on board with what's going on. But one thing in that story, one thing is that even though a lot of people may have thought that the Riddler was crazy, it was shown on the news, this massive Wayne corruption kind of conspiracy murder story. And no matter what way you look at it, the only way that was cleared up for any characters was Bruce Wayne. He went to Falcone, heard one side of the story, thought for a minute that Maroni killed his parents, but then he visited Alfred in the hospital and got the clarity behind it. But ultimately, on the bottom line, they don't know. As Alfred said, it does seem, you know, it was Falcone, because Thomas Wayne went to Falcone that day. He was distraught, said that even though he didn't tell Falcone to murder Edward Elliot, he's going to go to the police and just tell him everything because he feels so bad that a man got killed. The man that he was actually trying to pay off to stop him from writing that story with this massive expose on his wife, with how Martha's parents, the Arkhams, died in a very suspicious, murderous way, and it's been messing Martha up for years due to the trauma of that murder with the Arkhams, her parents. She's even gone into Arkham a few times, and this guy, Edward Elliot, was going to expose all of that. So Thomas was just protecting his wife, Martha. But the fact is, even though Bruce has got this clarity, and even though it seems more like Falcone murdered his parents, but it still could have been some random Joe Chill. Alfred did acknowledge that it could have been some random thug in the street still. If you think about the actual expose video that was shown on the news to the whole population of Gotham and whoever was watching the TV at that time, or maybe they could still watch it, they haven't heard the context. All they have heard is that Thomas Wayne went to pay hush money to Edward Elliot. They have heard that Martha's mother killed her husband, and then, you know, YouTube monetization, unalived herself. They heard that there was a whole cover-up there, and Thomas Wayne then tried to control the reporter and then ended up getting him killed, even though he didn't. That was Falcone, all Falcone. But the public now think that the Waynes are a bunch of corrupt people, and it runs so far up the chain that, you know, even Martha's parents were crazy and, you know, the mum killed the husband and then unalived herself. It's just not great. Like, it looks really bad. And we all know what the public is like in real life. If something trends on Twitter and there's a certain, headline and it might not actually be the real truth, a lot of people might jump on something. So can you even imagine what Gotham already think of the Waynes? Sure, some people may like what they've done in the past, but they probably think, oh, they're a bunch of, rich elite, and now they're hearing there's all of this stuff that Thomas Wayne actually got this guy killed, even though he didn't. They don't know that. They really don't know that. So Bruce is maybe going to have to try and repair his family image. That is such an organic thing to do in the Batman sequel. We've always talked about how Bruce is finally, unlike the first film, got to realize that he needs a bit of duality, a little bit. Now, I don't think he's going to go full Playboy mode, and I think a lot of us here are in agreement with that. But one thing he can do that we've not really spoke about ever before in this discussion series is he's going to have to try and repair the optics of the Wayne family. I mean, I know Gotham probably don't think that Bruce had anything to do with it. He was just a kid at the time, but they probably don't have a great perception of the fact that this is billionaire playboy who's a recluse, more reclusive than Falcone, as the movie said, and his parents did all of this in their eyes and from what they believe from the Riddler's expose video. So again, just to kind of like lay it on the table, the Waynes don't look good in Gotham. The Waynes look like a family who are so rich and elite. That's a topic in of itself. They view Thomas Wayne as the kind of rich scumbag who would stop a reporter to the point of getting him killed. So with Bruce, hopefully, and naturally getting a bit more into his duality in the second movie, I doubt he's going to make a press conference to the point of being like, my parents didn't do it. By the way, I actually found out that my father actually didn't go to Falcone to get Edward Elliot killed. Falcone did that anyway so he could have something over my dad. Please believe me. It's not going to go that way, but it's going to be interesting to see how he navigates that, tries to help heal the Wayne name. Maybe it will be through things like the Wayne Enterprises helping restore the city after the flooding and the damage to all of these small businesses, and maybe people think, even after the reports of the Wayne family and the Arkhams and the cover-up and Thomas Wayne getting this reporter killed, well, at least the son, Bruce Wayne, is doing good things with the family name. It could be something like that, because one thing I am thinking about, the more I'm talking about this right now, there's no way to really clear that up. How is Bruce Wayne really going to be, unless, as I just said, he holds a press conference saying, by the way, in my investigations, my dad didn't do this. It was actually Falcone, please believe me. That's not going to happen. And ironically, at the same time, the thing about Martha Wayne's parents, the Arkhams, with how her mother killed her husband and then unalived herself, that's true. That's all true. And now Gotham knows it. So one thing is very false with what Thomas Wayne didn't do, but one thing with Martha's parents is true. So with SAN here saying, and how will that affect the perception of the Wayne legacy in Gotham and Bruce coming out to the public again? Yeah, maybe if he is trying to do more public things and help out, going back to what I just said with maybe how he's really trying to help repair Gotham with Wayne Enterprises money, that could warrant a public appearance. A lot of the public could be like, screw you, Wayne, and all of this stuff, like throwing stuff his way because of what they learned about his family in the first film. Even though he's doing something good for Gotham and he might be talking about helping out with the flooding, they still might be like, screw you, look at what your father did. Are you just like your dad? Of course you are. You've never done anything else before with Gotham. Oh, isn't it convenient that you're now coming out after what we've learned about your dad and how he got Edward Elliot killed, even though he didn't, but that's what we think. Do you see where I'm going with this? This has opened up a whole new idea of discussion, I feel, that we can revisit in a couple more episodes' time, especially with you guys replying to what I have been saying right now. Give me your ideas about what SAN has said here, because it's truly something we've never considered before. And the reason why I'm so passionate about this question in particular is because I truly actually do believe that this, in some way, shape, or form, has to be addressed in the second film. You can't have Robert Pattinson's Bruce Wayne in the Batman Part 2 script. I can't see how Matt Reeves and Mattson Tomlin could write that movie assuming that Bruce is going out there a bit more in his public persona, which I think is a natural, organic thing to expect from the Batman Part 2. How can they do that without the public perception of the citizens of Gotham remembering exactly what it looks like Thomas Wayne did and what Martha's parents actually, or Martha's mother, did actually do? There is a lot of stuff to be dealing with there in terms of optics. Thomas Wayne looks like a scumbag, rich man, murderer, or who gets other people to do his dirty work and kill people. That's not great. And what does that mean for the son of Gotham? That's such fascinating things, and I can't wait to see what you say. I probably forgot to mention something here, but for sure I do expect this to be fleshed out a little bit more in the movie. Now, Alekia says here, I'm so ready for Matt Reeves' style psychedelic horror scenes for Scarecrow. Now, we talk about Scarecrow quite a lot. Just wanted to toss this in here because since we're on about the creepy vibes, and obviously this is a very detective noir-driven, point-of-view Batman-driven story, whether it's part 1, part 2, or eventually part 3. And this can also just be seen through this filter of, look how Barry Keoghan's Joker looks. Look at the design that Matt Reeves chose for him. I know a lot of people out there actually don't like it. And without getting into this whole subject, I think it is, there is this preconceived, it's the same thing of a certain Batman coming about, a certain aesthetic. You have a certain design in your head that is your preference. So if it alters slightly or fairly significantly, you'll think, but that's not necessarily what I'm used to. So with Barry Keoghan's Joker, I think a lot of people think that Joker is more of the man who laughs, smooth chiseled chin, long pointed white makeup. Wouldn't exactly say he's always pretty, but do you know what I mean? Let's just say Cameron Monaghan's Gotham Joker character, if you will. That's more what people look at. So when there's like a congenital disease Joker, people are like, what, is that really Joker? But I honestly beg to differ. It is a very relevant Joker. And the point I'm trying to get to here is, look at the lens of everything. Everything is very dark, moody. This Gotham is honestly quintessential Gotham with the way he forged it. The characters, the Riddler, the inspiration of the Zodiac Killer behind it. Barry Keoghan's Joker and when Matt Reeves talks about the backstory of him, saying he grew up with this congenital disease, people looking at him, and he kind of, obviously as a kid, you think, kind of sad, but he learned to overcome that and embrace the power that he has. So me going into all of these different, avenues down this spider web of filter of creepiness in Gotham, Scarecrow just fits in so well, and I think people are dying for it, even though there'll be a comment or two, as there always is. But we've seen Scarecrow in Nolan's trilogy. Yes, but he wasn't the main villain. Cillian Murphy was great. I would have loved to have seen more. But imagine a front and central Scarecrow villain story in the Batman. And I think it's just such a key combination of recipe here, because everything that I just aforementioned with the lens, the aesthetics of this Gotham, the psychological approach that is so ingrained in almost every corner, like the characters, Batman himself. Imagine the psychological pool that they could dip their toes in if they had Scarecrow's fear toxin. The potential is so good. It almost feels like it's a necessity to be done for this series. But one thing I do want to mention, even though we've had no news on it for a long while, we did have a major trade a few months ago now. I can't remember if it was the Hollywood Reporter, but you may somewhat remember that Matt Reeves was apparently meeting with various writers on exploring the possibility of Rogues Gallery villain movie spin-offs. So not HBO series, but movies. And these contained Scarecrow, Professor Pig, and Clayface. Now, I don't know what's going on with that. I don't even know if that was true. They might not even be movies anymore, and they may have never been movies. All of this could have been misinterpreted. The report might not even be true, but even if it was half true, it could be characters that could still be coming into various series. The one I need to put up on the pedestal here for that prime opportunity and example is the Arkham show. So like Dr. Jonathan Crane could be working there as well, maybe with Hugo, to use his fear toxin as a possible treatment, believe it or not, against inmates. Obviously, we know that's not a treatment, but maybe Hugo and Jonathan Crane believe if they overcome their fear, something good can come out of that, and it could be a weird treatment for the criminally insane. It's a wild example, but something they would probably think about doing. So again, we don't really know too much about Scarecrow, but apparently word on the street is Matt Reeves was looking into that character, maybe Professor Pig, maybe Clayface, for some kind of, or to cultivate those characters in some way in the future of this Batverse. And again, it's not just movies, it's spin-off shows as well. And don't forget that the Gotham PD series is still being reported as alive. And yes, I'm fully aware that it got put on the back burner. Apparently it was, then converted into the Arkham series, but there was a couple of different quotes from Matt Reeves there saying the idea turned into the Arkham series, but at the same time, he also said in another interview that it's now being put on the back burner. But the truth of the matter is, apparently, if you believe the reports, not only is the Penguin series in the works, not only the Arkham series, but the Gotham PD series has been revitalized and is in active development. Granted that it could be at the bottom of the pile, because as far as we've heard, that actually might be true, because the Penguin series is going to be filming on the 27th or the 28th of this month, February. The Arkham series, we've heard stuff about that. It's got a showrunner and writer, but the Gotham PD series, not so much. But again, it is being reported by major trades that it is still alive. So who knows? Scarecrow could be a villain that the Gotham PD have to deal with. Maybe they turn up to a crime scene with people going crazy and hallucinating things. Okay, so now revisiting the Robin talk briefly, we've got a couple of back-to-back comments I want to tie together here. Just given the recent news of DCU, and a lot of you since that last episode, almost a month ago now, have been saying it's funny how the first question in the previous episode of the discussion series was about Robin possibly being in the DCU and whatnot, and then lo and behold, James Gunn talks about it. So here, let's revisit that for a minute. Muka says, in terms of Robin, either way, I'm extremely excited for the future of Dick Grayson and the rest of the Bat family. For so long, I've been looking forward to seeing a battle for the Cowl and Nightwing on the big screen. While I'd prefer to see it all go down in Matt Reeves' universe, it seems like James Gunn will take the more deliberate comic route with these major characters, and we might just get a legitimate passing of the torch years after Batman's first debut. The Bat family and their stories are legitimate gold mines for movies that DC and Warner Brothers has been sitting on untouched for years. And then we have Dallas saying, hey Boba, love the videos. Now that James Gunn announced The Brave and the Bold, I think that changes a lot of things that we wanted for this Pattinson trilogy, like Robin and the Bat family. But most importantly, we wanted fantastical villains. But now that the plans for the new DCU are unveiling, it sounds like that's where all the fantastical Batman villains that we want in the Pattinson trilogy will reside, like Clayface, Killer Croc, Man-Bat, etc. Even though fantastical characters like Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy can work in a grounded world like Pattinson's, DC will most likely just go ahead and throw them in the DCU for the more fantastical Batman now, and giving us that full experience, and leave Pattinson with the more grounded villains, which I'm fine with because we can still see villains like Deathstroke, Black Mask, Hush, Scarecrow, and so many more for him. And to be honest, I prefer it this way. This means we can see more of the Batman's Rogues Gallery in live action, because since there's two Batmen now going on at the same time, there's more overall spread. So yeah, going over all of this is kind of like a Robin thing linked into that, but also what this means in the DCU for the more fantastical side of things. Now, again, this isn't like a hate say I told you so kind of thing, but I've always been saying that, and this is what I'm doing with my new Rogues Gallery adaptation series, that the Batman, the Batverse side of things, and why I never ever, not once, believed that it would be, or Robert Pattinson would be the DCU Batman, is because Matt Reeves' Batverse is not going to be all-out fantastical. As I said in my Mr. Freeze Rogues Gallery adaptation series video, you're not going to have a Poison Ivy who casts out her arms and then like a vine bursts through the tarmac of the road. You can still do Poison Ivy, and we're going to get to that in a future episode, in a grounded way, and yes, it still will be Poison Ivy to those who say you can't do Poison Ivy or Mr. Freeze without the cryogenic, sub-zero temperature or the plant vine metahuman powers. You can. You most certainly can. And Clayface, despite what Dallas said here, maybe keeping Clayface in the DCU for the more fantastical side. You can still do him. He's going to be a future episode as well in my Rogues Gallery series. But it does bring up the whole topic of we have two distinct Batmans now. One is Elseworlds, one is DCU. And I've always also been saying that the DCU, just like beforehand with the DCEU, where you had, as I always use this example as well, Ben Affleck literally riding on the back of a parademon. Do you know what I mean? Like that's you're not going to get a parademon in Matt Reeves' The Batman, or like, if you don't want to use that example, something akin to a parademon. You're just not going to get Pattinson engaged with something fantastical to that degree. But the DCU or the DCEU before that, that is like the playground. You're going to have two very comic book accurate Batmans. This is the funny thing. Matt Reeves' Batman is so insanely comic accurate, but you can also be so insanely comic accurate and do the more fantastical edge. And James Gunn's DCU, with the fact that you have Creature Commando, Swamp Thing out there, you have all of these other projects going on, that universe is fantastical. That Batman, who is now getting a movie with his son Damian Wayne being dropped off on his doorstep, will be in a world of where, yeah, Clayface probably will be a big blob monster and stuff like that. So going back to even before this announcement, I just saw all of this coming, but that doesn't mean that Matt Reeves won't have certain villains that he can adapt in unique crime noir detective driven ways. And I really want you to trust me on that when I say that. And I know some of you may hate the idea of, but you can't do it like that. You maybe just Scarecrow or other kind of mobster type bosses like, Black Mask, or even villains like Riddler and Joker. They're all doable, but you can't do Poison Ivy. You can. You really, 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 really can. And Mr. Freeze. And if you don't know how, well, I've done a whole video on that. Check it out. The first episode of the Rogues Gallery adaptation series within the way Matt Reeves might do him. But both of these comments tie together. First comment talking about Robin and, combined with this second comment with how the DCU is getting a Robin, and maybe we should just leave it to that. And, it is a win-win overall because I'm still myself extremely excited for the DCU Batman and what could be going on there, and the extended Bat family because Damian's coming in. He's already going to have Nightwing and everything like that. That's already been kind of briefly spoken about and teased by James Gunn. But this doesn't rule out Reeves getting a Robin. I'm very 50-50 on it because it can be introduced in a certain way of speaking, but maybe it just won't be the focus for now. Don't forget that Matt Reeves did meet with James Gunn. This was quite a few weeks back, and as Matt Reeves described it, it was going to be about air traffic control. So the fact that two of these guys, one technically being his boss, the head of DC Studios, they're both doing Batman characters. One in the DCU, one in the Elseworlds, the Batman Batverse universe, right? So you don't want these bat planes flying into each other. They were basically meeting to figure out, okay, so you're doing a Robin. Does that mean I can do a Robin in my trilogy, considering you're doing Damian Wayne? Maybe I could introduce Dick Grayson into the third film, or maybe Reeves was just like, oh, that's fine, because I'm not doing a Robin at all in the Batman Part 2 or Part 3. We will never know really what happened behind those doors, but obviously they don't want to be, let's just say, the second movie, hey, you're doing Scarecrow? Oh, we're doing Scarecrow as well. Like, do you know what I mean? At the exact same time, they're not really going to do that. So those were somewhat the discussions that would have likely have been going on that they could iron out the creases with. It does for sure put the Batverse in an interesting situation because even though The Brave and the Bold is going to be about, maybe a late 30s Batman with Damian Wayne, and some of you may say, well, that means Dick Grayson could be done in the Batman Part 3. As a lot of us say, maybe it won't be Part 2. You could argue at the end, Dick Grayson could be teased, but mainly Part 3, the third movie in this trilogy, could really capitalize on Dick Grayson. Don't forget that in the DCU, Dick Grayson is highly likely still there and going to be featured quite a bit, especially possibly in a future Titans team-up, because we've still got the rest of DCU Chapter 1 to be announced. So, we've had a lot announced, but there's still more projects from Chapter 1, and then the rest of the 8 to 10 year plan consists of Chapter 2, and that's a ton more projects. But that doesn't still negate Matt Reeves still doing his own Dick Grayson, but I do think it makes the situation interesting nonetheless. So even after this James Gunn announcement, knowing we're getting a Batman with an existing extended Bat family, that's a fact, now with Damian Wayne, I guess, coming in and maybe obviously at some point in the film turning into his Robin as Batman tries to, steer him away from the little ninja killing path, I can't definitively tell you that rules out Matt Reeves doing a Robin. But I've always said that I think this trilogy, at least in the first two movies, will heavily rely and focus upon Bruce's psychological journey, and we've had a big growth for him throughout the events of the first movie, being hardcore about vengeance, not having this duality of Bruce Wayne, just going all in, full send on Batman, but he's learned from that a little bit, so we expect things in the Batman Part 2 to go down the line of, okay, maybe Bruce Wayne comes out of his shell a bit more. He allows that duality to grow a bit more. This is the whole thing, because, people were just like, why is there no focus on Bruce Wayne in the first movie? This Batman, that's the whole point. That's the whole point. You're going to see more of that come, right? But after that's out the way, and yes, I'm not ignoring that Robin is a very big psychological growth for Batman as well. It helps him figure a lot of things out, having a Robin. That could be for Part 3, but I still wouldn't be surprised if that doesn't happen, because this could still be more about the DNA and the fabric that makes up Batman. And again, just to stress, I know Robin helps Batman figure out his own fabric and DNA and growth and everything like that, but Reeves can still easily do that without a Robin. So to repeat myself for the 5th time, I can't definitively say that he will be in it or won't be in it. It's truly a thing of what I keep saying at the minute as well in general of I wouldn't be surprised if Robin is in the Batman Part 3 or in some way Dick Grayson. And also, I would be surprised at the same time. It's like I'm truly split in the middle there. But we know for sure that the DCU is getting a Robin. And not only Damian Wayne, but Dick Grayson could still be at the end of his Robin mode and on the precipice of Nightwing. And then what does that mean with other extended Bat family? But for sure, you can look at the DCU as doing Robins, with what is being pointed out in Mooka's comment here, as a lot easier with, just in terms of, I'm not saying Robin isn't believable in Matt Reeves' universe. You can do it, but I feel like there's a lot of people who kind of are on the side of, sure, you can do it, but with Reeves' a lot more grounded world, I suppose you could see Robert Pattinson get a kid or a teenager to come in and do that. But it's, I suppose, a little bit, just a little bit, if you hear me out here, just a little bit harder of a sell than that of a universe that is way more flamboyant, if you will, DCU, with a Bat family, metahumans everywhere in James Gunn's DCU, all of this stuff going on, a lot more comic booky, fantastical. You can easily sprinkle the Robin in there versus that of the grounded Matt Reeves noir detective version side of things. Again, I'm not ruling out Robin there in Matt Reeves' world, but you can't deny that James Gunn's DCU is so much easier to just, as what Mooka points out here, taking this deliberate comic route with these major characters and all of these far-fetched, fantastical ideas out there. It's just a lot more believable and adaptable to bring in something like that and a Bat family. But I know people are dying to see Robin in Reeves' trilogy, so I suppose they could do it, and it would just be a lot more of like a, not hardcore version, just a bit more of a grittier, like, damn, like this is a bit more of a serious take on Dick Grayson coming into Robert Pattinson's Batman life, whereas in the DCU it's a bit more like actually flipping the pages of a comic book and there's Batman and Robin and you don't really think too much into it, whereas Reeves would actually get into the grit of, oh, what actually does that mean when you bring in a kid to fight crimes against people with guns and knives and everything like that. That tone is a massive shift with Robin to that of a fantastical DC Cinematic Universe version. Next up, and I think I'm going to make this the last question today, and I have so many more that I wanted to get to, so my next The Batman Discussion Series episode might be sooner than what you think, only because there's some other ones that I really, really wanted to get to, and I don't know if I want to wait 3 weeks for that, so let me know if you want the next episode a little bit sooner. If not, I will wait another month, but do let me know if you want it sooner. So Francois Collins says, we need a flashback on the Joker being defeated by Batman in year one. It would be such an awesome part of the second movie. Now, while I don't think we're going to get, just this random flashback in the second movie to that, who knows? You could get a teeny 2-minute kind of thing. Maybe if Joker is featured in the Arkham show, maybe recounting what happened. I don't know if we're ever actually going to see it. It could be left ambiguous, and I do believe that was the intent with already, visiting a Batman in year 2 and having already put away Joker around 10 to 12 months ago, because as Joker said, almost our first anniversary. But I am also really dying to have, even if we don't see it, I don't mind. I would love to, but I would be dying to have some kind of tidbit clues as to just exactly what Barry Keoghan's Joker was up to. Because no matter what, this is the Joker in this universe. He is still in his own infancy of villainy. He's not quite yet the clown prince of crime. But the fact that Batman already put him away, it makes you think, what was going on there? And I actually did a tweet when I was capturing questions for this video, and for this very question, it made me tweet this out saying, dying to know what the Joker's murderous spree was like during Batman Year 1, before he got put into Arkham. When did he realize Batman was on his trail? At each crime scene, did he leave little teasers behind, provoking Batman to catch up? And then I quoted what Barry Keoghan's Joker said in that deleted Arkham scene. He says, you're normally so ahead of the curve, because Batman was asking what was going on with the Riddler, and he says, do you have any theories? He was like, no. He's like, oh, really? You're normally so ahead of the curve, referencing because whenever Batman was after him during his crime spree, he remembers, like, Batman was normally so ahead of the curve, catching up to him. So it just makes me think of, what was that dance like? What did Barry Keoghan's Joker actually do? He's a serial killer. That's why Batman got his perspective on this new serial killer, the Riddler. So did he kill? How many people did he kill? How did he do it? When he realized Batman was on his trail, did he leave little teasers behind on the crime scene? Did he enjoy that? Of course, Joker would have enjoyed that. He would have loved Batman coming after him. And how did he eventually get captured? Did he kind of let himself get captured? Did he kind of want to see Batman in person one time because he couldn't resist? He wanted to see him do it and have the fun, playful dance of almost being caught. Like, there's so many things to think about, given that we know the Batman, Robert Pattinson's Batman, put the Joker away already during Batman Year 1, and just imagining what that could have been like. I know I've said this before, and I don't know if we'll ever really properly see or learn of what happened, even though we could maybe have extra teasers in dialogue, and maybe we just won't overall, because the bottom line is, the cliff notes are that he was a killer, and Batman put him away, so we can surmise that he killed people. But seeing that, just seeing it, and obviously it gives a little bit of a pattern to what this trilogy could could be, and that is Batman, as he's the world's greatest detective. That's a heavy focus in this trilogy. He was focusing on the Riddler, unmasking all the clues in the second movie, but we already know, quite literally, he did that before with Barry Keoghan's Joker. He went after him. He was a serial killer. He followed the clues. He was so ahead of the curve, in Joker's opinion, and he got to him eventually. So that seems to be a formula-esque of what could be going on with future villains as well. And that could be all we really need to know, is that Batman eventually followed the clues and eventually caught the Joker. But again, there's one thing hearing, okay, Barry Keoghan's Joker was a serial killer and Batman eventually caught up to him and, Joker viewed him as so ahead of the curve, maybe even sometimes to his surprise, and eventually that's what got him caught. But then there's just actually wanting to see the way it went down, what kind of crimes he did, how heinous were they, what were the murder scenes like? Again, did he cut smiles into people? Did he kill people through, torturing them with laughter? There's no way we know right now, but there's a bunch of possibilities. Because other than knowing what the Joker looks like and sounds like, and what Barry Keoghan's demeanor was like as the Joker, with how maniacal and how hyena-like that laugh was, it makes you think of how truly terrifying, as per matching his look, the actual murders could have been. And that, honestly, intrigues me more than anything, and it's really hard to not be intrigued by Batman and the Joker, especially when Matt Reeves introduces Batman and Joker in his first movie with an already existing relationship between them and dance that's already been happening for just over a year. All right, everyone, I'm going to end this episode of the discussion series, the second one of 2023, right here. So if you enjoyed it, do let me know by leaving a like on the video. And as I said, if you're brand new here, do consider subscribing, because these do come at least every 3 or 4 weeks, so every month roughly. But if you want to see the next one a bit sooner, given the other questions I really want to get to, do let me know down in the comments below. I don't want to flood you here with discussion series videos. Of course, expand on absolutely everything I had to say. Also, leave me additional questions so I can capture some of your comments for the next video. The hashtag for the end of today's video will be a line from Joker in the deleted Arkham scene. So if you want to prove that you got this far and you're one of the real ones, with whatever comment you were going to put down in that comment section, put the hashtag "You're so much more fun." But until next time, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you, Bat Family, in the next video. Goodbye.